A very good morning from the KTN News Center this Sunday morning. Thank you for joining us. This is Kenya's premier Sunday morning political show. It is now a mid-morning show. Rather than coming to you every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, we shall be coming on air to discuss the biggest political stories of the week from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And my guests are already here with me. Let me introduce them to you before we get into what we are discussing this morning. I have with me Mutinda Kavemba, Jubilee strategist. Right next to me, I have with me political analyst Hesbon Owila, another Jubilee strategist, Brian Bogwa, and political risk analyst Dismas Mokua. For the next 2 hours or so, we shall be getting into the big political stories this week. Of course, the biggest story is the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as they continue to prepare for the presidential election repeat on the 17th day of October 2017, exactly 36 days from today. They have been facing all kinds of pressure from both sides of the political divide. There is a seeming fallout among the IEBC commissioners, a lot of discontent, a big a memo that was written this past week by the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, to the CEO of the commission secretariat, that is Ezra Chilo, but demanding answers to some tough questions. We'll get into that. We'll also get into the campaign trail, both sides of the political divide, hitting the campaign trail to continue campaigning ahead of that presidential election rerun. But first, let's take a look at what's making headlines in the newspapers this morning, looking at the Sunday Standard and the Daily Nation. We'll get into some of those stories. And one of those stories that has been big this past week, very quickly, has been some defections that Kenyans have seen, political defections. The biggest one, arguably, Isaac Ruto, former governor of Bomet, declaring his support for President Uhuru Kenyatta in this campaigns for that presidential election rerun. Let's listen into that.
Tumekuja kuunga nyinyi mkono, tupigie nyinyi kura pamoja tarehe 17 muendelee na jukumu la kuongoza taifa la Kenya.
That was at Kapkatet, if I'm not wrong, in the county of Kericho, a place that has been synonymous with big declarations. Isaac Ruto, of course, nemesis to William Ruto in that Rift Valley politics, declaring he will support Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto to an extent. Dismas, what is your take on this? I mean, we did see a battle of supremacy between the two Rutos. Ruto, Isaac, of course, did lose to Joyce Laboso in that gubernatorial race of Bomet. Did he have a choice? Or for political survival, he had to support Uhuru?
You recall in the past we were praised the former governor Isaac Ruto for being a man of his own convictions. But now it's very clear from this defection that at some stage politicians no longer think about their voters or their political convictions, but rather look at political survival. The only reason why Governor Isaac Ruto decided to defect is not because he consulted the people of Chama Mashinani, or maybe he thinks that the Uhuru candidature is the best ticket this time round. It's because of his political survival, because he knows that most likely he's going to be in the political cold for a long time. There's a very high probability that Raila Odinga won the president, and if Raila Odinga was president of Kenya today, then Ruto would probably be a senior cabinet secretary, and he would have not defected. So really, we go back to the normal Kenyan politics, that our leaders do not care about national interest. They don't have political convictions, but they're just looking for their
political survival. Is it bad to
survival.
survive politically?
Well, in mature democracies, you're supposed to have a political philosophy which guides you on how you're going to do business, and you stick with it, whether you've won a seat, whether you've lost a seat, whether your party is in power, whether your party is not in power. Maybe we can go to Mombasa and look at Hassan Omar, who was not able to beat Governor Joe, and he's decided that he's not filing a petition. He's resigned as a Secretary General for Wiper, and he said he's going to pursue his private interest, at least for the next 5 years.
Right.
And there are very high chances that he's going to join the civil society to go on as a public intellectual. Now, that's the kind of politician that you need. You do not need to be in the mainstream elective politics for you to serve the nation. You can serve the nation in many capacities. For Hassan Omar, having been beaten having failed to beat Governor Joe, he had a strong position as the Secretary General of Wiper. He would have stuck in that position and, go on influencing and campaign for Raila Odinga and hope that if Raila Odinga wins, then he would be a key member in the NASA politics.
Right.
But because he's a man of conviction, he's decided that I'm going to quit the active political space and pursue his interests, whether they're going to be business, whether they're going to be private sector. And those are the kind of politicians who are in a shortage. But we need many more politicians in the level of Hassan Omar.
All right. Brian, is this bagging Isaac Ruto a win for Jubilee, or are you opposed to that political survival as well?
Of course, we want to consolidate our base, and as you can see, Rift Valley is already solid. And whatever Isaac Ruto did is whatever any reasonable Kenya will do. He will look at the realistic chances. Who has the realistic chances of winning? Makiui was a NASA principal. And if indeed he thought NASA could have won the election and will win the 17th, will have remained in NASA. Even for political survival, you go to the party in government. So if Isaac NASA will not win, and back home also, his people are telling him, you made a wrong move, please correct your move. I want to disagree with Dismas because in politics, when you enter elective politics, you want to win. And you'll do whatever it takes for you to get that seat. It's very difficult to work from without. It's very easy to work from within when you have a platform. Right now, when Governor Isaac calls a press conference, less journalists will go, unlike when he had a seat. So when you are in elective politics, you have a bigger platform than this one.
Ben, let me just talk about when he says that you have to win your seat at whatever cost. Kenya is trying to grow as a democracy, and let's use the best practice like in the US or in the UK. Today, Donald Trump is the president of the US. You've not seen Democrats, including the Clintons, moving to become Republicans simply because they want to stay in office. No. They've got their ideals they are fighting for as Democrats. They've got the ideals they are fighting for as Republicans. So that if a Republican becomes president, you don't see Democrats trooping like, sheep to a particular party. Right. You remain true to your convictions.
So in this country, they use the terms listening to what your people want.
Yes. It's listening to your stomach. It's
no,
your people.
Hesbon, what do you think?
I think in this country, there is something that keeps on coming back to reaffirm its position in our political discourse. The fact that ethnicity is bigger than we think, that even if you're a big politician, whatever conviction you have, you'll have to be sucked into the tribal cocoon. And that is basically what is happening. And you realize that a lot of our politicians don't stand for anything. And when you don't stand for anything, you can go whichever way where your stomach will be satisfied. But I think for me, the bigger picture is what exactly is Isaac Ruto taking back to Jubilee, for instance? Ask yourself, how many votes did he garner, as a principal and brought to the table? I mean, insignificant numbers. So in terms of political clout, in terms of numbers, he's adding very little to the Jubilee cause. But I understand, for them, politics is about perception, politics is about self-interest, with very little.
Let me ask you this, Hesbon.
Yes.
If he did not perform or deliver for NASA, does it mean he will not deliver for Jubilee? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, delivering in a political contest is bringing numbers. So if he's going to take the few numbers that he garnered for NASA back to Jubilee, I think it's it's a drop in the ocean, And Jubilee is not really interested in the cloud that he's bringing. They are basically interested in the perception that NASA is disintegrating, and that is it, But the unfortunate thing is, what are we getting to learn as Kenyans who are trying to emulate our politicians? This is one politician that I've admired for a long period of time. And you see, his move to NASA was based on something that, at the time, we understood was a serious conviction to address the plight of the people, because he was drumming his support along issues of devolution, that we need more money. And at some point, he was on national platform saying that, wanakula nyama, sisi tunameza mate. The implication that you're getting right now is that he's not going there to serve the people of Bomet. He's not going there because Uhuru is going to win or he's going to add anything. He's going for nyama. There is a likelihood that these guys are going to have nyama for him, and therefore he's clearly going for nyama. And it is basically what we should run away from as Kenyans. We have a fledgling democracy, and we need to build institutions. We need to build political parties that people believe in. As we speak right now, at no point do we see Isaac Ruto consulting his chama cha mashinani. So it basically tells us that political parties are vehicles for individuals to satisfy their own interests, which is very unfortunate. That we have a generation that is growing up and they know that if you don't win, you are going to be in the cold because the people who get power are not going to address the issues that you wanted to address.
All right.
And I think moving forward, we may want to ask ourselves, what is it doing to our democracy? I think the issue of moles will rear itself big again, because you can't tell whether now he was in NASA for real or he has gone back to Jubilee for real. And there are narratives of, he's been sent by NASA to be a mole.
All right.
The other guys were saying
Bottom line, is it a blow for NASA?
It is a blow for NASA. In terms of perception, it is.
All right. Mutinda, what's your take on this? Isaac Ruto.
Politics first. Politics 101. Politics is about interests, that there are no permanent enemies, neither are there permanent friends. So there is nothing out of the ordinary for Ruto having done what he's done. Actually, it is a very big plus for Jubilee, because Isaac Ruto belongs to a group of Kalenjin politicians who were in denial that William Ruto has come of age and he is politically in charge of the region. There are others who have fallen out of the way because they did not adjust to that reality. One of the people who belonged to that group was Isaac Ruto. There is another one called Zakayo Cheriot, and I think they actually came together to pledge loyalty. So what happened is that Ruto had not gotten a chance to have a contest with William Ruto. Isaac Ruto had not gotten a chance. And it came during this election. And the truth of the matter is that he's quite a pragmatic politician. He lost the contest. So instead of him having his ego so big than his political ambitions, he decided, unlike those other politicians whom I don't want to name, but who are big people in Kalenjin land and who had to just keep off because of the strength that William Ruto had attained politically, Ruto decided that he is going to be pragmatic. And he said that they have not consulted the Mashinani, the CCM people. But the truth of the matter is that from the way the Bomet voted, it was clear that at the presidential level, they were with Jubilee. So the voting itself was enough to tell the CCM party leader that these people in CCM are no problem with you, but they have some problems with some of the political choices you're making for them at the national level.
Right.
And unlike some people, the truth of the matter is this. Mother Karua took that route. You've seen how long it has taken for her to come back. At some point, James Orengo had taken that route. At some point, Peter Anyang' Nyong'o had taken that route. But political pragmatism taught them otherwise.
All right.
But some of them had stayed out for quite long. So I want to commend Ruto for being very fast
This
in
must
adjusting
tell you
and taking the right move so that he is not irrelevant going forward.
All right, this must would criticize what you're calling political pragmatism and say that is just political, tribal politics. And he would ask you, why wouldn't Isaac Ruto do what Hassan Omar did? Stay in the cold, stick to your principles. You've been fighting for devolution for the last 5 years. Stick to your principles. Why wouldn't he do that?
You know, the question is, what are these principles?
Right.
Like, for instance, he was with Wiper, and they lost, including himself. Probably principle should have been that he should have remained with his party, so that you are not only with your party when you stand a chance of winning, but in good and bad times. So I don't understand exactly where the principle is, because if he was that principle, he should have gone as an independent from the word go. So you don't quit your team because it has lost and start giving other funny reasons as to why you've done it. One thing is that I respect Hassan Omar very much, but I do not want to look at whatever he's done in the light that Dismas is trying to put it, because I don't think that is the truth about it.
I think Kavemba has raised a very interesting issue, that enough of politicians. I mean, Isaac Ruto is not a trailblazer here. I mean, enough of them. James Orengo once went against the tribal grade. It didn't work for him. He came back. Professor Anyang' Nyong'o did the same. It didn't work for him. But you see, there are also examples of people who went against the tribal grain. They won, they lost, but they still exist. I mean, they maintain their ideologies. Look at, a senior counsel like Paul Mwite. I mean, at some point, the Kibaki government wanted to appoint him an assistant minister. He said, no, this is against the ideology that I believe in. Look at somebody like Gitobui Manyara. I mean, he has just decided not to be part of the tribal political business.
But their political careers haven't really flourished.
No, I want to correct him. Gitobui Manyara this time
went to
Uhuru.
you see,
Isaac Ruto doesn't have to be in that court for that long
what I'm saying
to realize his mistake.
What I'm
That's the
saying
point.
is they have.
So they always
gone
come
and
back.
They always
stuck.
come back.
You see,
Political
they've stuck.
pragmatism.
But if you look at how he came back, he didn't come back like Kiraitu came. He came back via another political party,
That
which
is
as, we
supporting
speak,
Uhuru.
which, as we speak, we cannot even authenticate whether they
still
are
face
Jubilee
Mount Kenya.
or not. So we cannot
The truth is
globalize
he's
this.
saying Mount Kenya.
There are Kenyans outside there who believe in ideology and the integrity of their character, and therefore they don't just follow their own political interests.
But Ben,
See,
you know,
one thing that should
Kavemba-
be also clear here is that the party leaders themselves change parties at their convenience.
And
So it
people
would be
follow them.
dishonest. Actually, I think the only person who's remained in one party all through is Daniel Moi, their former retired president. All these other people have changed
And
as
Gideon.
per their convenience. So why would you want to hold
All right.
the rest of us Kenyans
This
using
must-
different standards?
This must have the last word. We move to something else.
Kavemba has let the cat out of the bag. He has said that Governor Isaac Ruto moved because he wanted to pledge loyalty to the deputy president.
Yes.
And that's the kind of politics we must run away from. We are not supposed to pledge our loyalties to individuals or personalities. We are supposed to pledge our loyalties to the state called Kenya. Because it's not always the case that these powerful personalities, their personal interests are consistent with the nation's interest. Others want to accumulate political power, and it may not necessarily be deployed for the public good. So, if, say, the political party leaders in Kenya have been jumping from one political party to the other, it does not mean that that's a very good example. It doesn't mean that it's a best practice for everybody to follow those examples. Isaac Ruto is a fairly young politician.
All right.
We're supposed to be setting good examples. Because, you know, for the last few months, people had said, this is the kind of politician you want to emulate. Now he's fallen off. He's joined some collection, and people will no longer take him seriously. And if he's moved to Jubilee, it's merely because he wants to have a larger audience at a media conference, as the Bogo suggests, then that's a tragedy for our political space. Politicians must have conviction. If you lose, go to the private sector, go back to the civil society, go run your farm. You wait for another day to fight.
But I can
So
ask
where's
Dismas.
the
Can I ask
role of
Dismas?
the people?
Yes,
Where's the
in
role
fact,
of
I can ask Dismas.
So you're
Who
saying-
determines what is good and bad?
And the question is this.
Who determines what is good and
What
bad?
is the role of the
No,
people
but
you represent in
you-
you
who
making
determines-
You
You
have
know-
to stand for something or nothing.
No.
cannot-
That's your
what
philosophy.
cannot-
You know,
All right,
you
gentlemen,
cannot
gentlemen.
entertain a
but that's your
political-
philosophy.
that
I
is
have
civil
another
society
philosophy
thinking.
different
That is
from you.
civil
society
That's
working.
what
Which is
makes
why-
democracy important.
That is
That's
why we are
why.
saying
That's
we
why
are
the
not
voter.
living in a democracy. We are living in an ethnocracy.
if
We
You
will
know,
support.
but I'm telling
Or
you,
it's okay.
even the Bill of Rights
let
deals
Brian
with
make his
individuals. They
points.
don't deal collectively. They deal with individual. So it's an individual conviction, and you don't have to prefect him on whatever way he has to.
All right, let's
Not your way,
There's
not
something
his
about
way.
representative democracy. You don't represent yourself. You represent the people. And if the people overwhelmingly tell you that this is our position, then if you want to take a different position, probably you don't belong to politics. Go to the civil
Okay,
society.
let's-
Those are the people who take ideal positions.
Let's end it
Not
there.
reality.
Let's end it there. Isaac Ruto is listening. This one says he should go back to farming. You know, he's called plogum. That in Calais means gambut. Anyway, in other news of this past week, on page 8 of the Sunday Standard, Musila unveils plan to boost Jubilee votes. That is some Jubilee's push in Ukambani, the former Kitui senator who lost in the gubernatorial race. He convened a meeting of a section of Ukambani leaders to map out how they will campaign for President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election. That meeting included some 3 Jubilee elected members of the National Assembly. Dismas, Ukambani politics, Jubilee, Musila is pushing it. Let's listen to some of the things that was said by those Ukambani leaders led by David Musila.
Hii community ambayo imekuwa kwa serikali tangu Uhuru 63 haiwezi tena kuendelea kuwa ndani ya opposition.
Sisi hatukatai uongozi wa Kalonzo, lakini mahali anatupeleka ndio tunakataa.
We would like the president and his deputy to know that Ukambani is no longer an opposition zone.
All right, those are some of the leaders, the minority, you would say, in that Ukambani is. But Dismas, what is your take on this? Musila lost, is trying to push a Jubilee agenda in Ukambani, saying that Ukambani is not used to being in the opposition. Is that...
Okay, there's a bit of propaganda there. Maybe Musila has not socialized with the constitution to actually understand that in Kenya, technically speaking, there's no government and there's no opposition. Either you're in the majority or you're in the minority. So for him to suggest, to behave in a manner suggesting to the Kamba community that because, say, Kalonzo does not drive a GK vehicle, then they're in the opposition, that's a fallacy that people must be disabused. Now, going back to Kavemba, because Kavemba is talking about representative democracy.
Yes.
Musila got a beating. So it's very clear that the people of Kitui had no time for him. He presented his manifesto. He wanted to run. He wanted to, but he did not win. I'm using your logic. He did not win. And why is he moving out?
Even Wiper did not win. Even Wiper did not win.
He's let the cat out of the bag by saying that we can no longer afford to be in the opposition. So consistent with Governor Isaac Ruso's thinking, he also wants to be in this place called government. Not because he's been told by his people. Did he call for a convention and he did an opinion poll, then people told him, no, we are tired of being in the opposition.
He had people there.
Let's go to government. No. Again, this is about the politics. Now there's a new term called tumbocracy. He's moving to that side because he wants to drive his selfish interest.
Does this mean there were rumors that he was in Wiper. He was a chairman.
Yes.
Is he still the chairman?
No, he resigned. He went independent.
Yes.
Even the Wiper candidate was stabbed.
But before he went independent, there were rumors that it was just being used by Jubilee behind the covers of darkness. Does this now, after he lost the gubernatorial race, he now supporting Jubilee, does this support that narrative that it was all along a Jubilee project?
It confirms that fear. There's no doubt. But the big question one may want to ask Musila, when did he realize that the candidature of Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka is a horrible one, when in fact he was one of the key architects of Wiper? That's number one. Number two, when did he sit down with the people of Kitui and hold consultation and say, I was running for governor, you did not give me your votes, but now I want to join the so-called government. Please give me your blessings. Right. No. Somebody like Musila, from the time he completed school, he's always been occupying a public office. So when you talk us to him that he no longer be a beneficiary of a GK vehicle, a government driver, a government bodyguard, and those trappings of power, he says, no, wait a minute, I now want to work with government. And I can almost bet my head, when we go for the October elections, if Raila wins and Kalonzo is the deputy president, he'll come back trooping and say, my apologies, I took a wrong decision.
Brian, what's your take on
I think
Musila?
I'll still stand on
Do you think you can get something from
I will
Ukambani
stand with
also?
my word that they are looking at who has the realistic chances of winning the next election.
Not who has good policies for the nation. It's just about winning, no policies.
Which this man will not agree with me. You know, even Wiper lost in Kitui. In fact, they were a distant third. Eh?
Exactly.
So at least Musila was independent. He didn't have to consult a party, of which even those people who formed coalition, they did not go back to the people to ask them if we can join this and this coalition. So whatever he's saying is nonsense there. It does not make sense unless everybody else did the same. You cannot put people to another test and others to a different test in the same scenario. The same way you praised Isaac that when he went to NASA, it was his own conviction that he did good, and when Musila decides to come to Jubilee, it's because of...
Do you believe you'll get anything from Ukambani?
But you see, there's no even one or MP in Central from Wiper or ODM, but we have MPs in Ukambani, meaning Jubilee is making inroads, and we are not taking anything to chance.
All right, fair enough. Hesbon?
Yeah, I think it's relatively interesting for Musila because, you know, William Ruto does not come from Ukambani. It is Kalonzo Musyoka who comes from Ukambani. So to that extent, you're looking at Musila as a person who is likely, you know, to bring in some votes, given that he's squarely now in competition with Kalonzo Musyoka, in the sense that Kalonzo is looking for votes for his party and the coalition ticket, while Musila is trying for Jubilee. And again, you look at the number of votes that Musila got as an independent gubernatorial candidate.
You think those numbers will translate to presidential?
It tells you that Jubilee is having a serious consideration in terms of facilitating Musila and all the other Kamba MPs who are looking at supporting Jubilee. But we need to ask ourselves, why exactly have they come to this realization that this is the time now to stop supporting Raila and Kalonzo and support Uhuru Kenyatta? From where I see it, they're not looking at even the chances of Uhuru winning. They're looking at campaign resources. Just get those resources, campaign for Uhuru, make a kill for yourself, and look forward to whoever wins. Because just like Dismas rightly says, even after the election, we will see guys trooping. You know, and it is very unfortunate that the majority of these guys who are trooping towards the government side are losers. So it tells you that these are people who are underscoring the tumbocracy ideology, that they are going because there is nothing else. They are not seeing any political future in the near future. They are not seeing any source of money anywhere. And then there is this fallacy that we are out of the government. No one is out of the government. Even the minority leader is a government official.
We meant executive.
Minority whip. And the executive is apolitical. The executive is supposed to serve all Kenyans. And it is the work of the legislature to oversight. So there is nothing like we are not in government. And these are people who are suffering from the KANU hangover, who still believe that we are in a one-party system. You are either with KANU or you are out. And it is very unfortunate.
You know, semantics. Sometimes
can the people in minority appoint somebody?
You know, first, let's get rid of the semantics. Majority means government in our new setup. Minority means you're in the opposition. So you can't use that to say that
okay, Mutinda, let's come back to
get rid of the semantics.
Let's come back to Ukambani politics.
And that is why they went to the Supreme Court, because the ruling that the verdict that had been given by the IEBC had put them in the opposition, and they've gone back so that they make an attempt at forming government. And politics is about that. If you look at the main objective of any political power, any political party, is to attain political power. So these things of, you know, like there's anything wrong with people wanting to be in government, yet that is what political parties are all about. That is hypocrisy. I won't call it nonsense like my co-panelists, but it is hypocrisy of the highest order. I want to talk about Musila. You know, Musila, there is a reason you're asking why did he join government. First,
is he in government?
He's in Jubilee.
He's in Jubilee government, in case you forgot. So Musila was the Wiper chairman. He went for nominations. It was clear that his party leader did not prefer him to be the governor, and so they rigged him out. And the figures that he got during the general election is the main proof that Musila was rigged out. Now, even if it were who, how would you be expected to go back to people who went out of their way to frustrate you politically? The other thing is that Musila has always had a soft spot for the government. Even when they were campaigning, you could hear some of the sentiments they were like you actually mentioned, including Nyenze, who was the minority leader, but sometimes could go out of his way to actually praise government, not because of anything, but because he had good reasons to do that, and he was sure that he can explain to his people.
It's not because he was being sponsored by...
No, what I'm saying is, as we are now talking about Musila. So Musila, with his more than 100,000 votes, as an independent, has now decided to openly come out and campaign for Jubilee. Let us first note that in Cumberland, out of the 3 counties, Jubilee got the highest number of votes from Kitui County. By then,
sorry, you're saying what?
Yes, out of the 3 Kamba counties, the area that Jubilee got the highest number of votes, out of the 3, it was Kitui, then Machakos, then Makueni with the list.
That's correct.
Now, you need to consider, to note that by then, Musila was not openly campaigning for Jubilee. But we still got those numbers. As that now, he's now openly, and you can guess why. Because the region...
By how many votes will Musila bring? Presidential votes?
Every vote counts. Let me first remind you that in 2013, we missed the runoff by 8,000 votes. So if he brings us even 8,000, it would be much appreciated. Every vote counts.
Right.
Let's look at it from that angle, that every vote counts, and that our history has shown that our competition is so close that you cannot wish away anybody who has potential to bring a chunk of votes.
Right.
And Musila, for your information, those who don't know, Musila's nickname in his area is Meko. Meko in Kamba means action. He's an action-oriented leader. And that is why he managed to get more than 100,000 votes. So don't wish away that kind of clout.
All right. We'll see how that continues to play out in the coming days as that Ukambani push. Very quickly, I want to get your thoughts on, during that meeting, the Member of Parliament for Kitui East, Nimrod Mbai, is attributed to have said some utterances that we cannot play on air. I mean, I don't know if it's been trending on social media. What's your quick comment on that? Let me start with you, Mutinda.
First, it would be unfortunate, but I happen to know him personally. I saw in his page, he said that he didn't say that. But of course, it would be unfortunate. No one should call for such things, especially when you're in position of leadership. But now that I saw him disowning that, I wouldn't want to dwell very much on it. But of course, that was not the right thing to do.
Hesbon?
Well, I think in the heat of political, discourse and rhetoric, anyone can say anything. But it is important that if he retracted and disowned the statement, he comes forth and, does that, not on Facebook. Not all of us are his followers.
All right. Brian?
Yeah, if he means he disowned the comment, he said he did not make the comments. So It's unfortunate if he made the comments, and as a country, we need to desist from such comments that will burn our country down.
Ben, in my view, as we grow as a democracy, we are supposed to vigorously attack ideas and run away from attacking personalities. The fact that he is denying that he did not make the comments is a confirmation that, in fact, he made the comments. And what he must do is to quickly look for Charity Ngilu and offer an apology. The idea of saying that I did not make the comments and he thinks that's sufficient is unacceptable, because he's won an election, he's a Jubilee member, he's a role model, and the people expect him to play beyond a certain league. And one would have expected for Mr. Mbogwa and Mr. Kavemba to immediately institute disciplinary action against a member of the National Assembly who says that they're capable of raping a politician, or that a politician who's taken a divergent view which is not consistent with theirs must be raped. That's unacceptable. We cannot afford to tiptoe around this issue. And at this stage, we need to ask for FIDA and other civil society organizations to take up measures against this. Because for people in Kitui, they may think that if you disagree with a female on an issue, the solution is to engage in an act of rape. It's really unacceptable. And one would also expect that for the DPP to move on his own motion and have this matter before a competent court of law. We cannot afford to entertain this kind of mischief.
All right, thank you. Of course, he says he has retracted that. We will look for that. We will look for evidence that he did indeed say those words. And, of course, that is a story that is continuing on social media. A lot of people have been giving him flack for that. We'll see how that continues to pan out very quickly. One person, Mutuku Fred, says, Ukambani Tumbocrats on Twitter. Ukambani Tumbocrats must fall. And Ali Ibrahim says, I foresee Musila making the biggest political pie for Ukambani. Some of the views here on our discussions on political pages this morning. One here, Nico Mate says, Isaac Ruto is just rushing to Jubilee kujitafutia ya tumbo yake. Those are some of your views. When we return after this commercial break here on the show, on Sunday edition, we'll focus our attention on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as they continue to prepare for the presidential election rerun on the 17th of October. It's exactly 36 days to that election date, but the IEBC is facing all kinds of pressure from both sides of the political divide, a seeming split in that among the commissioners, a lot of internal, pressure ongoing, not very good relationship between the chairman and the secretariat. We'll take a look at all that and what all that means for Kenya as they continue to prepare for the election, and given the reaction by both NASA and Jubilee to Chebukati's decision to form that project team to manage the presidential election. Don't go too far. This is Sunday edition.